It's Dragon Ball Z, the Legacy of Goku 2. This game is extremely entertaining. May cause like adventures and friends, pets, and all foods except maybe pizza. Prolonged play may result in seeing spots. They make Saiyans when shutting eyes. Trunks down Android suckers may cause discussions no one understands. Atari is not responsible for hair color changes to Goku yellow. The Legacy of Goku 2 for Nintendo Game Boy Advance. Rated everyone.
Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, we are pulling out the little handheld that always could, the Game Boy Advance. Why, you may be asking? Well, you clicked on this video, you know what game we're talking about. Log 2. We're not calling it Legacy of Goku, all right? Log 2.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
Man, the 90s are so great. I'm just enjoying my Nintendo 64. I don't have a thing to worry about. There's no cyber hackers, whatever that is, or this internet thingamajiggy that's connected to my house. I'm completely detached from humanity. Well, that is where you're wrong, kid. Who are you? It is I, Mr. 2022, and I'm here to harass your router. I think I need a VPN.
A virtual private network keeps you safe and private by covering up, like a mask for example, everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information in a way is blurred out. It's encrypted. Anyone who tries to snoop on you won't be able to see what you're doing or where you're doing it from at all. Also, a VPN lets you virtually travel the world with the tap of a finger. For example, if you were to live in Spain, you could connect to a Canadian server and access the biggest movie catalogs on Netflix. The same goes for other countries and some streaming services as well. So security and additional options in your entertainment are exactly why you need to team up with Surfshark. There will be a link in the description down below. Use the code REBOUND for 83% off and 3 months for free at surfshark.deals/rebound. A lot of you had the same epiphany that I had when I talked about Legacy of Goku 1, right? When I talked about it in that video that we uploaded recently, it was there I said, I love the whole series. My excitement was generalized. A crucial error indeed, as I quickly learned when firing up Log 1, oh my, it is not the game I thought it was. It was Legacy of Goku 2. That was the true GOAT. So it only felt right that we had to follow up that video and talk about, is Legacy of Goku 2 really that good? We're gonna flip the script a little bit. I know our new series is it really that bad? And trust me, there's a laundry list of bad games or potentially bad games that I wanna give a second chance to. But we need to flip the script for this video and talk about a Game Boy Advance game that I happen to have complete in box right here. Look at the holographic, look at that. Try not to blind yourself on that one. That's impressive, complete in box material there. But of course, we had to talk about Legacy of Goku 2, thanks to all of your support in the first video. And if you want to see Boo's Fury, the third entry in the series, let me know down below. But with that, let's begin. We can actually do the complete in box experience for this game, unlike the first game where I only had the cartridge. So, as you can see, shing, sparkle, sparkle. You see the holographics. You see the silhouettes of the androids here in the background. Limited poster inside, fret not. We have it on hand. Yes, I made sure to shop specifically for that one. It does make the game a little more expensive. You see Trunks here in the capsule. Love that stuff. All right, on the back, your next adventure awaits. Now, I made a mistake in my last video. I want to call myself out. Accountability, key here. So I said that they switched developers in the second game. It was always the same developer. It's just that Atari had rebranded during this time period. So I had made the mistake. It was the same developer each step of the way. They just progressively made a much better experience, which is great. That's a much better story to tell than, hey, you screwed it up on your first try. We kicked you out and we brought someone else in. So my bad on that. Anyway, Webfoot responsible for the development of these 3 Legacy of Goku games, and it just got better over time. Your next adventure awaits. A youthful yet mighty force arrives from the future to warn the Z Fighters. Now, play as Trunks, copyright. Vegeta, copyright. Piccolo, trademark? Okay. Gohan and Goku. And battle the ruthless androids before facing the ultimate evil, Cell. Do you have what it takes to repel the power of these new enemies and save the world? Play as Trunks, Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan, and Goku. Advance from the Trunks saga through the Cell games and explore more than 10 massive game maps. I can't begin to describe to all of you, number one, the emotion I experienced firing this game up for this video, and I'll get into that especially, but also how much of a dramatic improvement this game is. But first, the complete in box experience. Now, this isn't my favorite GBA complete in box experience. You'll see if you're looking from the top camera that this little slip here that holds the Game Boy Advance cartridge, it is unfortunately ripped through. You can't just buy a replacement of these. So it is very much loose on the inside. There's not much securing everything. So you just can kind of dump all of the materials out onto the table. So not crazy about that, especially for a $100-ish game complete in box. But what we have here is, of course, the cartridge. You know how it looks, but of course we want to display that. So label's looking nice and clean here. Official, legitimate copy of the game. No scratches on the back. I always look for the wear and tear here on the bottom for how many times it goes in and out of someone's Game Boy Advance. So it's just something in particular I keep an eye on because it can gray out, it can scratch up over time. But what you're really looking for here is the manual and the map. So let's start off with the map because I think that's really important. They talked about 10 individual massive maps, and they weren't lying there. Here you see some of the enlarged box art. You see Goku, you see Trunks, the silhouettes I was talking about. You love to see all of that. Here on the back, however, you have the various game maps that you can go to. Now, this is important because one of the big improvements they make in Legacy of Goku 2 compared to the first game is they open things up. So there are certain points on the map that you'll be able to step onto, and you'll go into an overworld section. Now, if you recall in our Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi video, I talked about how Budokai Tenkaichi 2 is my favorite, particularly because I love the overworld. I love flying from point A to point B and going to these destinations and fighting within them. This game, because it was more exploration focused, it was even better. But it was so impressive to see them go from the, if I were to be very brutally honest, abysmal Legacy of Goku 1, where it was very narrow, very limited, very crammed, to so much more openness in the environment and exploration, where you even had that world map that you'd fly around in. This game map represents all the different places you can go, and so it was really awesome to have. And also, keep in mind if you begin shopping for something like this, that not only does Legacy of Goku 2 have the game map, but so does Boo's Fury. Good luck on that one. Tough to find just a complete box copy, let alone one with a map. And then, because it's Game Boy Advance, let alone one that's in great condition. But now the manual, then we'll talk about the game. So this is a thicker manual, and the condition of this compared to the box, it's very, very crisp. But cracking it open, good news, it's colored. You can see, is that Haruto? No, that's Cell. That's Cell in the, actually I can't tell. No, that's Shenron. I couldn't tell who that was. At first I thought it was Harutogarn, then I thought it was some weird form of Cell, but it is indeed Shenron. You can see that a little more clearly there in this image. I love the little thumbnail picture here on the bottom right corner of Goku going Super Saiyan. I just feel like as time's gone on, I love Dragon Ball, by the way. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan, but it's sort of lost its edge. Remember, the Cell games were supposed to be the end of Dragon Ball. Think of that moment where Vegeta's standing there when it's all said and done. All the Z fighters fly away. They carry off 18. They're all just standing there, and Vegeta's talking to Kakarot, even though Kakarot's dead, and he's saying that he is not a warrior. He'll never fight again. He's lost his fighting spirit. It left him with this conundrum. If they ended it there, imagine the emotional depth that scene would have had. So this is why this game has emotional weight, and you'll feel that in the soundtrack. When I fired this game up, I just gotta say, you get to Goku's house as Gohan. The track that plays, I was brought to tears, man. I was like, oh my God, I feel like it's 2003 again. Like there are some tracks in video games, as you all know, that you hear and you're like, life itself stops. You're just, whoa, hold on. I need to take a breath. And that was one of those moments for me, which is rare because you just don't expect it. It just happens. But when you hear it, you get transported to where you were when you were playing the game. And for me, it was my Mimi's car. I remember I told this type of story a bunch of times, so it shouldn't be brand new, but I traveled a lot to my brother's baseball games. The way I stayed in video games while that was happening was my PSP and my Game Boy Advance. And I remember it was a drizzly, rainy day, but I had the Game Boy Advance in hand. I was chilling there in the car, playing through Legacy of Goku 2, and there I was in Goku's house, and that song matches really well with the rain. So it was just like a perfect combination. And hey, just on a personal note, I opened up the window, it was raining out. really, really special moment. So yeah, it was a tearjerker moment. That's what games do to me, man. I gotta be honest, as I get older, they just hit a little bit harder. But anyway, back to the manual. You'll see here they do walk you through all of the new mechanics, the save points, how they work in this game. They're Capsule Corp circles. You just stand on them, press the A button. It saves for you. You move on. The obstacles, the world map signs, that's where you end up flying in the overworld, like I talked about. There is a mini-map that you can eventually get, which I believe is through the Scouter, I want to say. But there's also a new character screen, much improved from the previous game. You can see combat. We'll talk about that and how that's improved. Everything's improved here. The portraits even, you can see the ones that they use inside Legacy of Goku 2. There is one portrait that I didn't like, and you can see it right here. What happened to my man Goku? What happened to him? Why does he look like that? There's no shadows or definition to his face. He looks like Goku but Frieza. It's, I don't know, a little creepy. But anyway, that's all that comes in a complete in-box copy of Legacy of Goku 2. You know me, I always love to take my time showing off the Game Boy Advance games. They're a little more expensive. They're a little more special to me, so I want to make sure I give them the shake that they deserve. But now that that's all done, let's talk about the game. I need to start off with the same exact touch point I did in Legacy of Goku 1, which is exploration, exploration, exploration. One of the things I said that was at least redeemable about the first game was your ability to go from point A to point B and what you'd see in between and how it built out the Dragon Ball world a little bit more. What I absolutely adore here with Legacy of Goku 2 is it answers those complaints I had in our last video. It was there I sat down and went, hey, I just want to go inside Goku's house. Why can't I do that? This feels like a very small ask. And here in Legacy of Goku 2, you have a multi-floor house. You get to explore, see Goku and Chi-Chi's bedroom. You get to see the living room with the TV. You get to answer the phone at one point. I know this all sounds silly. You get to study as Gohan with his math book. It all sounds silly, but it humanizes these characters. And as Dragon Ball has grown, and I'm happy to see it grow, it's become more of just like this, just throwing fights. It's all about cool fights. I think we're so quick to forget about the character-defining moments, the humanizing moments. And sometimes one of the things I did like about the superhero movie, there's a little more slice of life in Dragon Ball, and I feel this game explores that in the right way. It doesn't sacrifice pacing, but it does allow you to experience some coziness, enjoy the world a little bit more. Now, one thing I noticed right off the rip as well with this exploration is the collision detection is so much better. I talked about it in our last video, how when you're exploring Legacy of Goku 1, it's like every 5 steps I'm hitting into something. It was not open up enough where every single obstacle in the world just stopped your momentum. And I know that's really hard to do in a 16-bit top-down action game, but they managed to pull it off. It was something spectacular, quite honestly. But here in Legacy of Goku 2, it seems like, again, they took a look at what they did wrong and reacted to it properly. They opened things up, much more open-ended. With that collision detection not being an issue, you could start sprinting from point A to point B. If you double tap the control pad, you would zip to where you need to go. That was awesome. So really on an exploration level, what you're seeing, what you're doing is just fantastic because it controls better, it's designed better, and then you get to the good Dragon Ball flavoring, like being in West City and going all over the place. I talked about Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. It is an excellent Dragon Ball game in so many ways. I feel it takes Z's biggest moments and manages to redefine them, animate them in a way that we would hope to see in today's technology. But what I love perhaps more in Legacy of Goku 2 than Kakarot is that Kakarot lets you say go to West City, but you're just there. You don't do anything there. You're literally just there. There's no interaction whatsoever. You're in the city. It's cool. It's next gen. Awesome. But there's no touching, interacting, communicating, questing, none of that stuff. Whereas in Legacy of Goku 2, you can go to Capsule Corp, you can find an unmarked quest, talk to Bulma. Bulma will say, hey, can you go to this shack over here, Circuit Shack? It's there, they're gonna give you an item for your scouter. This is an important optional item. Granted, actually, I shouldn't say unmarked, it is marked in your journal, but it's just an off to the side thing. You can talk to Briefs, he's gonna tell you about this is unmarked, finding the golden capsules. There are 25 in the game. There's just those little moments there. You can go to all stores, you can buy a sandwich, you can find a cookie that someone gives to you, you can find healing items, power-up items, you can use them specifically for certain characters. There's just something about that level of interaction that, as a diehard Dragon Ball fan, speaks so profoundly to me. Just let me talk to people and do quests with people, and I will be very happy. This game answers that. But I have to say, as I listen to the soundtrack, the way it starts, where you're playing as Trunks, you're playing with adult Gohan, right? He's about to go into the destroyed West City, the one in the future. He's going to fight on his own with one arm cut off, as we all know. A very dramatic, emotional point in the Dragon Ball story. But what I think, again, conveys that feeling of this was supposed to be the end of Dragon Ball Z was that the soundtrack is very melancholy. From Goku's house to the opening scene in the game, there is no feeling of hope. Immediately when you're on Earth, everyone's saying they're going, we detect Frieza's energy. Obviously, we know that's when Trunks shows up with his sword, chops them all up, then does the blast of all blasts, sends Frieza to the dark realm, and that's it for Frieza for a while. And until they decide to bring him back with like every other villain in the series, because just the creativity's going down, I suppose. But I digress. This, again, felt like a really serious tale, but it's those in-between moments that define it all. So yeah, exploration, tone, really does a lot of the heavy lifting here. But it's also the writing's better, the character portraits are better, the legibility of the text boxes is a million times better. Everything here is better. Perhaps what for some may not be better, but I do enjoy, is the leveling system. So one thing you'll do is as you pick up items in the world, you'll power up your character, but as you beat up enemies, you will level up. Because combat does not become this slog fest, it is still structured the same with throwing punches, shooting ki blasts, that type of stuff. But because the hit detection is not, we'll say, garbage, it makes it where I can actually beat up an enemy without taking 3 hits and being at this much health. So leveling up is much easier, it's done quicker, it's more enjoyable, it's such a vast improvement where actually there's knockback. So when you throw a punch and you hit them, oof, back they go. And then you can reset, hit them again, maybe punch, and then throw a ki blast, punch, shoot out a Kamehameha, whatever you want. Like that's what we're looking for. Now, the reason leveling up is important is because you're going to have these moments in the game, which they introduce to you very early on, where they're literally level gates. Like they will have a number and you will need to be that level to break the gate down. So there are times you will have to go back and grind. Some people actually don't like this. For me, again, I find that the grind is much more enjoyable. And I think because of the way you explore the world and the side quests you're going to do, that it doesn't stumble as hard. And especially because, again, in hindsight, when you look at Legacy of Goku 1, I was grinding to get health back. I was grinding to level up so I would get this much health back. That is not how it should be structured. Again, one thing Legacy of Goku 2 does really well, it intelligently utilizes the respawning of enemies. Obviously, due to the limited memory within even a Game Boy Advance cartridge, you couldn't have every area you go through be completely wiped out permanently once you're done with it. So you could enter and exit an area over and over, break open the rocks, and recover some health. That type of stuff is there for you to do, and it does work in the game's favor, albeit it's a little bit of a disconnect, right? I'm breaking this rock, I'm leaving the screen, I'm coming back, I'm gonna break the rock again, I'm gonna get some health. You can do something like that. I never felt I had to, but you can do something like that. So there is a little bit of that grind there, but I don't think it is as extreme. I think even though if you don't like the grind, the exchange you make with exploration, open-endedness, and that world map is so worth it, where I think this game really does hit the nail on the head. And then you combine that with being able to play as other characters, right? Where it was Legacy of Goku, so you were just playing as Goku for the game, where this game starts you off as Gohan, you just start transitioning all over the place and leveling up with different characters. That's what it's about, man. And especially because some of these places are limited to certain characters. So there is a degree of you can go and backtrack and find hidden items, which I loved, man. I love doing that. So you can go and play as Vegeta and go to the wastelands. And when you go there, there is a specific door that only Vegeta can go through. Cool. That's what we love to see, man. That level of, I don't want to say replayability, but depth, where I can go straight through the story, or I can go over and explore here and find new items and complete quests and beat up more baddies, that type of stuff. I do think the key balancing still needs some work. I think it's kind of strange that you can't just stand there and charge your ki, but I guess it would kind of break the game if you could just shoot from a million miles away and then recharge and then do it again. But I just feel that would fit what every other Dragon Ball game does, where you can stand there and actually charge. I think it makes the Ki Blast feel like this gun that you have has limited ammo when that's not really how it works. But I digress. It is something that can recharge through items. You can get items and put them in your inventory and you can recharge that way, which I just want to shout out as well. The quest log in Legacy of Goku 1, I don't even know if you could call it that. It was just a list of names of quests that you have. But this game, it has a gold star, a silver star, a bronze star for what the level of priority is to the player. Like, this is your gold star quest. This is the main quest. Everything else, like sub quests, not important, optional stuff, but it labels them properly. Like, go visit Bulma at the Capsule Corp. Go find this person at Circuit Shack. It's like, okay, in West City. Okay, West City, where's Circuit Shack now? That type of stuff is awesome. I will say though, sometimes navigating is tough. The way that West City is set up because of how art was done back then, this is where 16-bit kind of betrays you as you look at the world map for that, and you'll see these little icons, and I'm thinking to myself, where am I supposed to exactly go here? I'm trying to figure this all out. That can be frustrating, especially when you're trying to get to Goku at that part of the game as Gohan, and he's behind a Mr. Hercule float. And you want to get to that save point. So what I had to do was fly back to Goku's house to save again before I shut the game off and moved on to record this video. So it was just one of those moments where, again, the game's a little old, but such a vast improvement. So great to go back to it. So that's all I got to say about Legacy of Goku 2. Yeah, it is really that good, I think. And I'm excited to, provided you are all interested, dive into Boo's Fury. So let me know what you think of this down below. Are you a Legacy of Goku 2 lover? I think based off the comments in the last Legacy of Goku video, I know that answer. But anyway, I want to hear from you. So fire away. Other than that, take great care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.